Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is July 24th, 2023. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Today was a solid ass Monday. Let's see here. Food corner. Not much to really talk there. I will say I relearned a good little hack because I bought some berries, blueberries to be exact, and I added them to the last bit of like peach yogurt I had. Oh my gosh, so much better, so much better. And I was like, duh, like of course, like you love parfaits. A third of the reason you like, well, maybe yeah, a third of the reason you like the parfaits are like the berries, duh. So it was a nice little treat to eat that. Let's see. Other than that, there's really not much else to report, at least in terms of my personal life or the things I'm eating. But that being said, let me tend to some grass, if you know what I mean, and then we can get to some news. All right. From CNN. Israeli government passes law to limit Supreme Court power, defying mass protests. Now, if you ask me, this was something that was only a matter of when, not if. But I mean, there was that hope that maybe both sides could come to the table. There could be at least some kind of stepping back from the ledge here. And, we would see a Supreme Court with, their powers and, this right wing led coalition government, could just take their pounds of flesh that they were already getting and we could just live miserable ever after. But no, this shit had to get worse. Um, the Israeli parliament on Monday passed a law stripping the Supreme Court of its power to block government decisions, the first part of a planned judicial overhaul that has sharply divided Israeli society and drawn fierce criticism from the White House. I feel like they should put that in quotations. Just because they are literally just like downvoting the decision, like at the Biden administration, it doesn't mean that that's fierce criticism, in my opinion. Like, you guys are not being loud enough. You could be louder with your actions, if you ask me. But we all know that that's just not gonna fucking happen. But the controversial bill, which I believe is called the Reasonable Act Bill or something like that, Reasonable Bill. I don't know, some lame shit. But the controversial bill passed by a vote of 64-0 in the Knesset. All members of the governing coalition voted in favor of the bill, while all opposition lawmakers walked out of the chamber as the vote was taking place. So essentially, everyone else who didn't vote, like they just knew, like, hey, we just don't want to be party to this at all. Like, you guys have the numbers, so just vote on those numbers. It'll just go down in history as you guys were the ones that put this into power. But there was a bunch of protesters. They were met with barbed wire and water cannons. There's like photos on this article. I couldn't quite get them. I got one in the thumbnail, but there's a better one where you literally see this water cannon just like tearing into a crowd of people who are just like blocking the road to Parliament. Or yeah. So essentially, they had to move that aside so that people could get in, and they did what they needed to do, I guess. But among the people who were protesting were thousands of military reservists, including more than 1,100 Air Force officers, even before the bill passed that they would refuse to volunteer for duty if it did. Now, like, kind of the running, ongoing conversation is like, look, we are not okay with the bill that is now more or less going to give so much power to the Knesset. Like, they could order us to do whatever they wanted to, and there's no stopping or blocking that, and we don't necessarily want that. I mean, that being said, they're already party to a bunch of shit, in my opinion. And they're already down to ride, so I don't know. But that being said, I understand what they're saying. Like, they do not want to have to be involved in the blank check that essentially the Kessanet is now getting with this new power. I'm trying to think, what else is there? What they wanted to pull from here? There is the opportunity for the Supreme Court to potentially block this. The former Prime Minister Yair Lapid will file a petition with the Supreme Court on Tuesday to block the law, and it has urged the military reservists not to refuse to serve until the court delivers its ruling. Okay, guys, just keep doing what you're doing. You know, if there's an atrocity that needs to get done, you should do it. Get on that. But but if the court doesn't, then then it's time to ride out, I guess. I don't know. And that's what I'm saying. It bothers me because the whole time there's still a bunch of, persecution, oppression of a whole group of people in West Bank. And it's like, they have no part, no say in any of this. In fact, all of this is going to be used to make their lives just wholesale worse, most likely, somehow. It's very frustrating. And that being said, I understand that, the Israeli people are fighting for their rights here, and they feel like, hey, we don't want to see this, and that's good that they are seeing and fighting for it, but they're doing it for themselves, I feel like, not for, the Palestinian people. I feel like I've said that before, and, once again, I'm a broken record on this shit. Another thing, let me not forget a little bit of bonus news. Benjamin Netanyahu did get fitted with a pacemaker. Apparently he's been having some heart problems physically, morally that shit's just still broke. He don't give a fuck. But yeah, he's like, no, you guys got to get me out of here. I'm discharging. I got to make sure I get my vote in. Like, yeah, man, you got it. You did it. What else? Yeah, the protests are going to keep on going, which is good. I'm not going to lie. I was surprised that they did have so much staying power. But at the same time, you see that it still winds up happening. That the Kessanet got what it wanted. Netanyahu got what he wanted. He's still going through legal troubles. But, it just seems like further and further chipping away, and we'll see. Something I did learn from this article, too. Another bill already voted through in March makes it more difficult for a sitting prime minister to be declared unfit for office, restricting the reasons to physical or mental incapacity, and requiring either the prime minister themselves or 2/3 of the cabinet to vote for such a declaration. Just more or less further insulating Benjamin Netanyahu. But for Benjamin Netanyahu, he still has to continue to try to quote unquote walk this line, that he has with this ultra right party that he's now aligned himself with, and the rest of Israel, I guess. So he's doing that one day at a time. I will keep you posted on any more news, any more updates there. But we can go ahead and move along. Back to my backyard. Well, not my backyard per se. We're just in the States, but we're going to yes, Texas, where it's just everything's bigger there, including the fucking buoys apparently. From CBS News, Biden administration sues Texas over floating border barriers used to repel migrants. Now, these floating barriers are kind of just the tip of the iceberg, but the Biden administration on Monday filed a lawsuit against Texas over floating barriers that state officials have deployed in the middle of the Rio Grande, seeking to force the state to remove the buoys that federal officials argued have endangered migrants and border patrol agents alike. Also, not to mention these garish ass buoys. It also makes it harder for people who have to like fishermen and people who have to use the actual waterway, the Rio Grande. Like, they can't operate with this fucking huge fucking grand line of buoys in the way. And also, how these buoys kind of work. They essentially have been deployed. They sit out, and they are so massive. It's already hard enough to get through the Rio Grande, like, because the current is just so fast. But you get halfway through, and you almost maybe think, like, okay, well, these buoys are almost here to, like, stop me, but I can at least maybe hold on to them. But you can't do anything once you're there. Like, this current is fast. Like, you would be forced to, in a situation like this, you can't go really under them. You can't go around them. They're very hard to get through. So essentially, it's almost forcing you to get back. But let's say you do find a way to get over around these buoys. There's razor wire and shit on our side that are even further keeping you out. And also, it's alleged, and this is the fucking icing on the cake for me, that officers have been more or less doing pushbacks to people back beyond the buoys, to the Rio Grande, more or less essentially endangering these people's lives, just wholesale. There's other abuses that have been alleged too. I believe a medic has kind of come out that was, working there, was just like so appalled that they started, speaking out against it, essentially like blowing the whistle. But other things that have been alleged, that they have been withholding water from migrants, which to me, that part wasn't surprising. In fact, I can recall just listening, watching stories of these Border Patrol people literally breaking up water cases, making sure that people cannot drink water at any place that might be deemed like, hey, this is like a safe, like almost rest spot for you, along your way here. So the idea that they're doing this at the Rio Grande didn't surprise me, or in general didn't surprise me. Now, granted, they've come out and said, oh, the water part, we have we're not doing that. We systematically are against that. But it's like, no, you systematically are encouraging it with all this fucking behavior, but whatever. Back to the buoys. The Biden administration, saying, hey, this is fucked up. You gotta stop. You gotta not do this. And, Abbott's like, nah, I'm gonna keep doing it. So, we'll see how this lawsuit goes. Hopefully it bears fruit and this whole Operation Lone Star can be taken down a couple notches. Also, it's noted in this article that more or less through Biden's asylum plan, we've referenced that before on the podcast, crossings, I think, have been down by like 100,000, which is a pretty big number. That being said, there's an ebb and flow to this, so you can't necessarily say like, oh, it's only based off of this and it's going to be good from now on, if you want to call that good. Like I said, I am really against how the administration on Biden's end has rolled out this asylum plan. It's really fucking botched. It's scuffed as fuck, much like this podcast. But, I'm not in charge of people's lives, That being said, no atrocities have been committed on this podcast, so I can say that. Biden can't. That being said, Abbott has wasted multi-billion dollars. That's so crazy. So much money has been wasted on this whole ass operation, not just with the buoys, but with putting people on buses and sending them to other states to like deal with this fucking problem. Just so much dumb shit. It makes me so mad. Because I rail against other countries that do this shit. I've talked about Greece before and their shitty ass fucking pushback, the shit that they've done to migrants. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I get so mad about it because it happens here in my own country where I live, and it's supposed to be a land of the free. And it's like, no. Only for some. We do need everyone for like, really cheap, low wage labor, but like, we also don't want you to like breathe air here at the same time. It's really complicated, but you'll figure it out once you get here, if you can. It's crazy. It makes me mad. Not that the rest of these stories are going to make me any happier, that's for sure. We can move along. Oh, awesome. Speaking of my backyard, let's actually go to Ohio. Because I got a doozy. It's rough out here. From USA Today, Ohio police dog mauled black man as he surrendered to officers. Video shows. An unarmed black man was mauled by a police dog in Ohio after he had already surrendered to authorities with his hands up following a high-speed car chase through multiple counties earlier this month, according to newly released body camera footage. The lengthy pursuit began after Jadarius Rose, 23 years old, of Tennessee, failed to stop for a vehicle inspection by an Ohio State Highway Patrol trooper on July 4th. The footage, which was obtained by the Scioto Valley Guardian through a public records request, shows state troopers giving the dog's handling officer several warnings not to release the dog if the man surrendered with his hands in the air. Although Rose appeared to comply with authorities in the video, Circleville Canine Handling Police Officer is seen releasing the dog and commanding the dog to attack Rose. What's this motherfucker's name? Ryan Speakman. This motherfucker, it's either you're insanely dumb or what? Like, you're racist. I don't understand. Because it's so bad that there's literally your commanding officer, if I'm not mistaken, fellow officer, whatever, is telling you, look, if this man is surrendering, don't put the dog on him. Just don't do it. You're just to stand here. And this motherfucker's like, well, get him. Like, and I think the potential rationale that's going to be used here is that, hey, Rose was being hit with multiple commands. He was trying to comply. One said, stay there, stand there, don't move. Put your hands up. He has his hands up, so he's good, he's thinking. There's another that's telling him to get on the ground. So he's like, I don't know what to do. In this confusion, the dog is sicked on him. But once again, the other, which one thing I believe the commanding officer is like, don't put the dog on him. How many times did I tell you not to do that? Also, there's another beef that I have, is that once the dog immediately bites Rose to the point of bleeding, it's about 10 to 20 seconds, this whole ordeal, Speakman, I don't know why I added the ER, whatever. Speakman goes, pins him down, then has the dog off. So it's like, Rose has been complying since he got out of the car. He's doing what you were supposed to do. He is listening to commands. Like, what can you do? What can you fucking do in these situations? Like, it's very frustrating. It's very infuriating. To have to cover these stories time and time again. Like, that being said, Rose is obviously still going to, go to jail, go through the whole process. It's going to be a felony because he failed to comply. He risked people's lives and all that fucking shit, yada, yada, yada. As for Speakman, we don't know. We don't know if he's been placed on leave, aka he's probably not been placed on leave. There's been an investigation into his actions, but we don't know what that's going to bear. Probably nothing. So, I mean, if there is something else to report here, I will be there to talk about it. But it just seems like it's another thing that we have to just take on the chin, We know they love to put the fucking hoses out. We know we love to put the fucking dogs out. It's just a reminder of that to me. It frustrates me. It makes me very fucking sad. Not that this last story is going to make me any happier, but I wanted to talk about it. But let me de-stress. Let me take a break. Let me catch my breath. Now, I actually caught the story on Reddit. I read like half of it, like half of the title, if you will, in my push notifications. And I was like, something about this story is just so wild. I'm not even processing it yet. And then I listened to it on a podcast where they talked about Mr. Braxton. And I was like, this is insane. This is the same story, isn't it? And I clicked it and I was like, sure fucking enough. So, from CBS News, black man who says he was elected mayor of Alabama town alleges that white leaders are keeping him from position. So, this is the town of New Bern, Alabama. Patrick Braxton, 57 years old, is one of several plaintiffs named in the... Braxton et al. V. Stokes et al. If I was smarter, I know what that means, but I don't. The other plaintiffs, James Ballard, Barbara Barbara Patrick, Janice Quarles, and Wanda Scott are people that Braxton hoped to name to the city council of New Bern after he was elected to office in 2020. Mind you, he ran unopposed because I believe the incumbent mayor, which is Stokes, didn't even run. He didn't even bother to put himself on. But essentially, Braxton, he's a black man. He ran for mayor of this town, New Bern, majority black, I believe 85%. But I believe in over 100 years, some odd years, whatever, there's only been like one black official in town council. But Braxton said in the lawsuit, which CBS News reviewed, that New Bern has not had an election for decades. Instead, the office of mayor was inherited by a hand-picked successor, and that mayor then chooses town council members again without an election. All prior mayors have been white residents, which is said in the lawsuit, even though about 85% of New Bern's population is black. Only one person has ever served on the town council. So, this is wild to me. Like, it's so bad that literally Braxton goes through all the channels. He goes through a whole process. He pays up. He does this shit. And he wins because he's literally running unopposed. There's just no one who was qualified to even run against him, and he runs and he gets it. So he's like, cool, I'm mayor. He then goes about the process of making a council, which initially wasn't going to be all black. He wanted to have a mixed group, and all the white residents of the town that he asked to be on council just declined. They didn't want to be a part of it. So he's like, okay, found members. And then turns out the incumbent mayor, Stokes, says, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna, do a little shadow shit. And I'm trying to think if I can find it here. Here we go. Meanwhile, in August of 2020, just weeks after his election, Stokes and his council members, Gary Broussard, Jesse Donald Leverett, Von Seal Brown Thomas, and Willie Richard Tucker allegedly met in secret to adopt a special election ordinance. Notice of the meeting was not published, and the group set a special election for October 6th. Essentially saying, okay, cool, you got it, awesome, and we're gonna, re-elect Stokes and just do all this shit without you. Which is insane. That's wild to me. It's like, this can't be real. They even went further as to change the locks so that he couldn't get into town hall. He couldn't get into his place of work. He couldn't find out any of this fucking information, and they took information while the doors are locked. I believe the locks were changed on him 2 to 3 times in this whole process. So, it's just the more I kept pulling out of here, the more upset I was just getting. Let's see what else is here. There are also more people who are implicated, but of course no one is talking. Everyone's just kind of saying we're waiting for court. I've been told I can't speak on this. But more or less from what Stokes has said is everything that they're saying, it's what's happened, but it was all legal. So essentially it's Braxton was mayor. So essentially, yes, he did become mayor because he even registered it with a probate judge. So this is all on the level in that regard. They're not debating that. But they are saying that an on the level other election happened and now he's not mayor anymore. And I'm just I just don't understand how that makes sense. How do you make that make sense? But I'm just hoping they don't get away with it. I hope that Braxton gets, his chance to actually be in office, to be a mayor. He won it. He won that right. Yeah, I wish I could find the Stokes guy, the full name, but I kind of don't care. Fuck this guy. Tomato to this man. May he be forgotten in history as far as I'm concerned. But that's all I have for today. Let's see. I got to do the shill shit. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. If you'd like to support financially, I'd really appreciate it. You become a newsie, which gets you newsie status. I shout you out once a month on the podcast. I also plug whatever project you got going on, things like that. So, that's a thing you can do. But there are free ways to, contact me and support the podcast. Gmail, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com if you'd like to send any feedback. But if you're following all the socials, that's great. Obviously, if you're just being a listener, you've made it this far, you're the best. You're the best around. No one's ever going to keep you down. God damn it. But let's see. Sharing, that always helps. The stars, all the stars, comments. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube, please do that. That would be hella dope. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.